If you want to read a book about a killer grandmother who has been behind, I think, 4 murders, then this is the book for you. This is His and Hers by Alice Feeney, which I finished yesterday, and I've just got some thoughts about this book. Probably not all good, but yeah, here we are. So this book will, this review will have a lot of spoilers. So if you haven't yet read the book, then I urge you to do so, or maybe not urge you, but don't go watching this review if you've not yet read the book and you don't want to know what's going on. This book essentially is following 2 characters called Jack Harper and Anna Andrews. Jack is a detective who has been moved to this sleepy village where nothing really happens, and Anna is working in London for the BBC as one of their presenters. Now, these 2 people are presented initially as not knowing each other to the reader, but their fates entwine when in Jack's sleepy village a body is discovered, and Anna is moved there to present on this body, on this news story. And then we find out that Anna and Jack are actually ex-husband and wife, and they have this past history to do with the body of this woman, and we're basically in for the ride. Now, this book, the writer is basically kind of trying to deceive you, obviously, with it being a thriller, as to who the real murderer is. You are going into this book, you think it's probably Jack, you think it might be Anna at points, and you just don't know. And I am one of those people who will try and figure out who the murderer is, what is going on, why they're doing it. I become the investigator, essentially. I have a few problems with this book. The first thing being, like I said, spoiler alert, the actual murderer is revealed to be Anna's mother, and Jack's mother-in-law, or ex-mother-in-law. I don't even know her name, but this was so unbelievable that it just made me like hate the author even more. I went into this book with a bit of a grudge against the author. I'd read I Know Who You Are by her. I don't really remember the plot, it's very forgettable, but I remember the feeling of being kind of just conned, really. The author really likes adding kind of gratuitous perversity in her books for no real reason, and she likes a lot of kind of shock value, and I feel like this book goes down basically the same line. I did want to know what was going on, so she did keep me engaged throughout the book, but really it's been washed all away by my feelings of anger about Anna's mother being behind 4 murders. I think it was 4 murders. It's just like, it just came out of nowhere. So let me try and explain that. So like I said, a body has been found in this kind of really sleepy village where nothing ever happens, very picturesque, very English. That body, DCI Jack Harper is covering it, and it's revealed that Jack already knows who this woman is, so he shouldn't be covering the case at all, and he should have told, you know, his superiors about that, but he doesn't, because Jack is a blundering detective, chief inspector. I have no idea how he got to the rank he did, because he makes mistake after mistake after mistake. So the body, who is Rachel and Jack were together the night that she got murdered, which leads you to think that it was Jack behind it all, especially because both Jack and Anna are presented as unreliable narrators, which is a trope I feel authors rarely get right, and when they don't get it right, it goes pretty horrendous. It feels cheap. It gives the novel a very cheap feeling. That's the word I'm looking for. And then you find out that another woman has gotten murdered, and all of these people are linked because of their past history at school, when due to something that had happened, they no longer spoke to each other, and Anna basically run away from home. That was revealed to be Anna's 16th birthday party, where the ringleader, Rachel, who was the first person to get murdered in this book, convinces them to go into the woods where a bunch of men are waiting, and Rachel is revealed as being this weird pimp. She's got those men organised, the girls do sexual favours on those men, the men pay them money, and Anna and Catherine, who was one of the, she was the outcast but kind of got involved in this group anyways, weren't happy with this, they're very reluctant. Anna said no, and so the men went for Catherine, and I believe she was gang raped. And I remember when I got to that part of the story, I was like, I'd written down in my sketchbook of notes, okay, this has got something very, very dark, and it's this type of depravity that the author really focuses on and kind of leeches on almost. I'm not a fan really. I know these types of events do happen in real life, of course, but for me in this book it just feels it's been added more for shock value. It doesn't feel cohesive. It doesn't feel like that the story is naturally lending itself to that, and I just don't see it as very believable. Absurd was the feeling I got from that history, and from Anna's mother being behind it all for some weird reason to keep her daughter close to her. It was just really, really odd, and I was very disappointed by it, if I'm being honest. I do also have to say that the main characters, Anna and Jack, whose perspectives you hear in alternating chapters, very unlikable characters, basically the same person but different genders. They have similar habits. Obviously, being ex-husband and wife, they may have picked up those habits, but their thoughts feel kind of basically one and the same. I find them to be quite one-dimensional, and I also had an issue with some of the writing in this book, because it doesn't feel very natural for characters of those professions or those ages to be saying some of the things that they were saying. I found Jack to be a bit judgmental, especially by his sister. It's a bit odd. There was a lot of telling rather than kind of showing. It didn't flow. I would say, like I said, it did keep me engaged. I did want to know who was behind it all, and I did not guess that it was Anna's mother, the crazy grandmother who's pretending to have dementia and who'd killed her husband, and then hidden him in her garden and grown a vegetable patch, and she was feeding the vegetables of that vegetable patch to her daughter and her friends when they came home. That was odd. But I also did like the theme of, oh, there's an aeroplane in the background, I don't know if you can hear that, but I also did like the theme of silence that runs through this book. One of my favourite quotes was, "Silence is my favourite symphony." I thought that was gorgeous. I liked how the different characters, Anna and Jack, responded to silence, and how for one person it was almost comforting, for the other person it was very threatening, and also the victims having their tongues kind of wrapped with a friendship bracelet, obviously very indicative of a secret of holding your silence. I thought that was like a really good time. It was very subtle and it did work really well, and I did feel that this author has improved since I read I Know Who You Are, because I hated that book. I went on to Goodreads because I couldn't remember anything about the book, and I had found out I'd given it 2 stars, so I was not disappointed. But if you want a crazy grandmother who is killing a bunch of people she doesn't really know just to keep her daughter close to her, then this is the book for you. I don't know if I'm going to read any more of Alice Feeney's books, because I have read 2 of them now, and both of them have this similar thing going on. And Sorry, I'm just sorting out there. Perhaps I'm not being that articulate here. I hope you can see me because I've tried to film this like a dozen times. I'm just not in frame. I'm just sat really awkwardly now as well. But one of the best good reviews that I found was very similar to my thought process about this book was by Stacey Lauren, who commented on I Know Who You Are. She'd given it a 1-star review, and she said that it felt to me that the author was just trying to shock the reader with child pornography, animal abuse and rape, and would rather shock than entertain readers with a cohesive story. For a book that started off really well, I was disappointed in the end, and I feel like that is exactly what the author tends to do. She would rather shock with these acts of or past histories of depravity and perversity, rather than kind of blending a story together that is cohesive, that fits well, and that is believable. And if I had to sum up my feelings towards this book in one word, it would be absurd, and not in a good way. But yeah, this is His and Hers by Alice Feeney. And if you have read any similar books, or if you've read this book, or if you've read any of the author's other works, please let me know. And I find it quite interesting because this is the second book I've read by her, and I feel like it's generally doing the same kind of thing. But I did enjoy reading this book because, like I said, I went in this book with a bit of a grudge against the author. So yeah, and it's definitely not giving Gone Girl a run for its money. That review is a lie. But His and Hers, Alice Feeney. Boom.